Was the CEO of UHC worse than other healthcare CEOs? Yes. Unprecedented denials for kids with expensive cancer procedures. What can be worse? UHC is the biggest and nastiest. In my experience, UHC's claim denials are absurdly high compared to other insurers. UHC denies roughly 1 in 3 claims. The national average is close to 1 in 7, and many other companies are closer to 1 in 10 or 1 in 11. UHC also has a reputation of being the largest employer of psychiatrists, which sounds good until you learn why. Psychiatrists have a medical license, and they have a high rate of failure in private practice. This makes them cheap to pick up as case reviewers who are just paid to review questionable cases and decline 90 of them. We don't know what the motive is for the time being since the shooter has yet to be caught, but numbers like that don't paint a good picture. This is oddly very French, which I think is interesting. The French might be seen as weak to post-9/11 Americans, but they have a long history of killing government officials and CEOs. In the 80s, the CEO of Renault was shot and killed in broad daylight because of recent layoffs. Edit. Correction. My girlfriend works at an ENT ears, nose, throat clinic, and UHC does not allow their patients to see an audiologist doctor in the clinic. Not a single patient. Deaf children cannot receive care because of insurance. He might be the worst, but they all do the same things. Either way, I'm sure the other CEOs of healthcare insurance are shitting their pants right now, which might be a good thing. I'm a medical provider, and I think the conflict of interest with insurance companies is horrific. My priority and the patient's priority is their health and well-being. The insurance company's priority is their shareholder. I don't know if this particular CEO was particularly more assholey than any other. I think the shooter likely had United Healthcare Insurance, and the CEO is the public face of the company. The CEO therefore ends up symbolizing everything Americans hate about our healthcare system. And, frankly, I think CEOs and wealthy people believe they are untouchable. So if you're angry at our healthcare in general, and your particular insurance company denied a claim that was the final straw for you, taking out the top person sends a loud message to the other carriers and the other CEOs, except, apparently, Blue Cross. Because what idiot thought that was the day to announce their new guidelines for anesthesia reimbursement? How was that not pulled? I hate that we're calling UHC healthcare, when health insurance company would be a lot more upfront about what it is they do. Insurance companies make profit by collecting fees and denying claims. That's what they do, and that's why all the health insurance CEOs deserve to live in fear for their lives. As someone who has Crohn's and has to battle with United once every 2 months or so to get my Humira, which I need to not feel like I'm getting my guts ripped out every time I eat, fuck United. Was the CEO the worst? We don't know. Was the company the worst? For sure. In the same way that John Wayne Gacy is worse than Jeffrey Dahmer. The health insurance industry is inherently morally bankrupt. On an individual level, I'm sure he was no more or less morally bankrupt than the next CEO. However, when we talk about the company he ran, when I said the health insurance industry is inherently morally bankrupt, UHC takes the cake and is the shining example of that statement. They have the most denial of claims out of any health insurance company. UHC is just greedy as fuck. UHC is a giant piece of shit and has been since I was in residency. In my area, no one took it. My girl started her own practice. I told her not to take UHC. She got crazy busy but never got paid. Spent hours trying to get reimbursed. She fired them after 6 months. Income tripled. I'm saddest that this won't be any kind of wake-up call for literally any business leader. It's an isolated incident, it's one disgruntled person, and it's unlikely to resonate with, for example, Anthem, who is now holding anesthetic hostage for surgeries. Unbridled, predatory capitalism and exploitation really need to end. Here's an article about outsourcing prior authorization with an example of UHC doing so. HTTPS. Well, actually, I think CEOs in general should be more scrutinized. I'd say the oil companies are on this list of ghouls. UHC is the 4th most profitable company in America by revenue. He was a slime ball and he had the deaths of thousands if not millions on his hands. This CEO wrote a policy that stated that if a patient went to the ER for a cause that the insurance company deemed not an emergency, that the patient would be responsible for the bill. Right, because all patients are medically knowledgeable enough to figure that out before going to the ER. That policy had been put on hold for now. If that's the scumbag thing we know about, what scummy shit do we not know about? This guy was a dirtbag. Powermonger looking only to elevate his power further amongst shareholders. He's a money counter, not a medical professional, yet he directly holds the fate of 23 million people in his hands. Because he wants to. That's disgusting. The weight of the angst of 23 million people wondering if their medicine or treatment will be covered rested squarely on his shoulders, and he didn't lose a single ounce of sleep over it. I could not deal with that stress. I strongly question the morality and human decency of anyone who says they are okay with that burden. Yes, but I argue that anyone who ever profits from medical insurance companies is an evil person, no questions asked. I'm not referring to the call center techs working a job to pay the bills and feed their family or get through school. I'm talking the executives who make policy changes. Anyone who has a vested interest in denying coverage that has been deemed necessary by actual care providers. Make CEOs scared.